In this video, we are going to talk about and I'm going to demonstrate various uses for illustrations in respect to integrating them with UIs and the user interfaces that you created in your layouts. So we've already used illustrations, obviously, a bunch of times throughout this course. But again, I wanted to kind of take just a little bit more like a specific look at how to customize the colors of illustrations commonly, and preferably you're using SVGs, and also just different areas of layouts and different use cases where illustrations can really help the design essentially. So what we're going to do is first I'm going to create just a desktop frame just to illustrate our first use case, and this is going to be just a feature blip section, and we've kind of already dealt with this a little bit, but again I want to talk specifically about these illustrations. So there's many different places and resources in which you can get illustrations. Now, one thing I advised against is creating custom illustrations yourself if you're not skilled at illustration design. So there's an entire industry for graphic designers specifically who are great at illustration design. It's something that takes a lot of practice in order to be good at. And so if you want the best result for your clients or your boss or yourself, I would really advise just either hiring somebody to create an illustration, or in most cases, there's an illustration out there already that somebody created that you can purchase if it's not free, and then obviously if it's free, all the better. So the one great resource is right here within Figma. So if we go to figma.com and I click on community, you could see up here we have all these tabs, and illustrations is one of the tabs that we have access to. You can also search for specific types of illustrations if you wish, or you just browse this. These are all community created. These are from just regular users who might be good at something, and it could be wireframes, design systems, etc., etc., etc. And you can just browse through these to use any of the illustrations. So the way this works, like say for instance, we wanted a feature section, and we really like this style of design right here. What you do is just you click duplicate, and then it'll open it up in your Figma account, and then you can just copy and paste those over. So for this first demonstration, we're going to do a 3-column kind of like a feature section. It has a title, a description, and then an icon at the top. And so that's one of the most common use cases of illustrations. And so I'm just going to kind of paste in what I've created here before starting this video, and I'm going to paste this in just right there roughly. All right, so obviously just some fake template or fake data right here, and at the top we're going to put in an illustration. So one thing that's very important when you're using a series of illustrations, especially as kind of like icons, you want to make sure that they're from the same icon set, preferably. That way they're designed consistently with the same amount of stroke, the same style, the same colors, although you can of course customize colors, which we'll talk about in a bit. So here is one right here. So if I put this right here in the middle, again, we're minding our white space and all of our fundamentals. Like if this would be way too close, we don't want to do that. Give yourself a good amount of white space between this section, and then we can go ahead and paste in another one. And again, you just want to make sure everything is lined up appropriately, and also not just on the horizontal axis, but also the vertical axis as well. Knowing that we want this to be in the center, we can always just click this right here and then center this up. And you can also, for your alignment, hit Shift R and bring things down so that you know they're exactly where they need to be. And then finally, you could tell these are all consistent, coherent icons or illustrations that were made by the same designer, essentially. Shift R. And there we go. This is a very common use case for illustrations, just to be a part of like a feature blip section. All right, so let's do another one, perhaps like a 404 page. So 404 pages, if you're not aware, they're just basically pages where if there's a web page that doesn't exist on the server, then this is where users are directed towards. And so I wanted to take a look at one illustration and show you how to customize colors very quickly and very easily. So I'm going to paste some type in real quick. All right, you lost little kitty. That's kind of strange, I know. You've ended up on a 404 page. Sorry. Pretty standard. And we're going to put in a cat illustration. Let's send this to the back. And maybe we'll put this right here. Maybe we'll group this up and center it right around there. All right. So let's say, for instance, you had a dark mode version of your app. And let's create a dark mode version of this. So what we can do is maybe we will take, let's take our fill of our frame. Let's take this and then also make it pretty dark, maybe a little bit on the bluish side. Yeah, right there is pretty good. And then we're also going to take this. So what we want to do is we want to double click into here to gain access to our actual illustration. And then you can see down here selection colors. And what we could do is we could change this white. And what it's doing is being that it's in a group, it's taking a look at all the colors that exist. All right. And so this is a real quick and easy way to change and update your colors. So we can grab our background here. And do we necessarily want to do that? Actually, what I want to do, we don't want this white portion here. So what we can get into is we'll probably scroll all the way down and we could delete that. There we go. So now we've made it kind of transparent in a way. All right. So what we could do at this point is we can take this right here and we can change, if I get in here specifically, there we go, this fill, we could change it to something, let's get our background, that doesn't contrast quite as much. And then maybe we can take our cat, which is a white color, and we can make it the same color as up here. And then this slightly darker gray that was there, we can grab this color and make it slightly darker over here. So then we take our text here, perhaps we'll get our background color and just tone it a little bit and add light. And there we go. So as you can see, it's very quick and easy to make adjustments to your illustrations and the colors themselves. All right, so there's also illustrations that aren't necessarily all vector, which is completely fine. They can be raster based. And so we're gonna take a look at how to integrate a 3D sort of icon or illustration rather. So if I type in, if I go back up here, 3D, you can see all these 3D assets that you can use. Some are free, some are sort of advertisements, so you always have to look and see if you're free to use these. Here's one right here. So if we click duplicate, we can see there's different pages. You definitely want to read me first right here. Library, and here's all the illustrations that somebody has created. So for instance, maybe we like this one right here. All right, so we're going to copy that and we will duplicate a new artboard. And let's delete what's inside of here. Let's go ahead and paste that one right here. We'll scale this down, holding Shift and Alt. And maybe we'll match the background up with some of the colors that are found here. Maybe we can make this just darker. And tone it a little bit with gray. All right, so that looks pretty decent right there. Now to help frame our layout, we can get a layout grid. We'll use columns. We'll use 12. Let's make it white. Use 4% here. And then add let's do like 160 or so for the margin. All right, so maybe we'll make this start right around here for now. And maybe we want to make this a part of a section in a landing page, not the hero section at the top, but just another area down beneath where maybe we'll have two cards. All right, so if I move this over, I'm gonna go ahead and take an existing card design I did, and we're just gonna paste it in right here. Oop, that was obviously really quite large, so I'm gonna have to do a little bit of work here to scale this down. So what I will do is take this, maybe put this at 45, maybe even lower, like at 32. This will change to from 30 to maybe 22. All right. And what I want to do now for a second is we want to get the rough size of the card itself. And we'll push this up. All right, so again, this has to do with scale, in relation to the size of this element. How big do we want our actual cards to be? Maybe perhaps somewhere right around here would work. So then we can take this area, work effortlessly. Let's change this to auto. There we go. At this point, I'm just going to hide. There we go. And then we'll take our type here. All right. And maybe a little bit less type. Like that. That'll work. And then also our learn more. So we're going to place this right there. Make that about 22. And I might make the card a little bit larger. I might actually adjust that slightly to maybe 20. Sorry, I had to refactor that just a little bit. All right, something like that. And then let's scale this up a little bit. Maybe we'll have 2 cards. And we can always experiment, by just slightly adjusting the alignment of them. So you don't always have to put things right next to each other. I probably wouldn't do this. I'd like to exaggerate a little bit more so we can see that there's clearly a separation between the two. And let's change this to and intelligently. All right. One thing I might want to adjust is that line height. It looks like it was exaggerated a little bit too much. And so we can continue to use illustrations, and these are I like to call them they're like little blips essentially. And so here's what I'm talking about. This is from another Figma resource from the community where they're just random 3D shapes. We can work these in just to add texture essentially to our designs. Maybe we'll add another one. Maybe down here. And we can also do other interesting stuff. For instance, maybe we want to create a little bouncy line between these two, like an arrow of some sort. So what we can do is, to do that, we'll take an ellipse tool. And I'm trying to create just a nice perfect circle. It kind of goes from the middle of one card to the other. We can change this to 50% opacity. And then what we can do is we can double click into it so we can get into this vertex, the edit mode here. And we can click the pen tool and click right here. And actually that one's already placed pretty much where we would want it to be placed. It might be a little bit higher. So we'll add one just above it. And then what I can do is we can, clicking back into this, we can delete these vertices. Then we'll go ahead and we will get rid of the fill and add a stroke. And if we double click, we don't want a stroke at the bottom though. We want this to be cut off. And so if I click on this, trying to get into edit mode, let me add a fill. It's not allowing me to. Sort of frustrating. Let's ungroup that and add a fill. There we go. And I'm going to simply add an anchor point here and delete it. There you go. So now we have just the arc, and then we can hit add a stroke, Now let's make the stroke the background color and just lighten it up a bit. And then also we can change this right here. I forget which one it is. Line arrow. And then, actually we'll do none for the starting. This is for the left of it. And then to the right of it, it's going to be pointing to this card over here. We'll do a line arrow. And let's see what it looks like now. You can see it's quite small. So we can increase that size. And if we wanted to make it dashed, then what we could do is come over here, change this to dashed, and then we can also make some adjustments to this. Let's see how we want this to look. So we can increase this. Maybe we'll decrease the size of that. That looks pretty good there. Let's make this on the front, so we'll bring the front. And there you go. So that's a way to create your own very subtle illustration right here with the line arrow. But as you can see, this looks really cool, and it's a way just to further enhance your UI with different graphical assets and illustrations. All right, so next up, I wanted to show you real quickly how we can create a light variation of this design. We can come out here. We'll just tone this up a lot, maybe right around here. You can see all this stuff still works. We don't even have to change anything. So that's one of the benefits of using cards. If they're already on a white background, it's still gonna work either way regardless. Very, very cool. I wanted to show another example of using illustrations as background textures, so to speak. So let's go ahead and duplicate that. We'll delete everything here, and let's use an almost black, right around there. And then maybe we have some sort of design where it's kind of like a splash page. Let's change this to 144 or so. Let's get this all set up here. Hold Alt. All right, obviously really large text. We can make that a little bit smaller. Maybe right around there looks good. All right, and let's say this in and of itself is very boring. Clearly, everything's flat. We only have a headline. To make something like this look more interesting, we can use line-based illustrations. Of course, you could use photographs as a watermark, but for illustration, the purpose of an illustration, here's a great way. So there's a, again, I believe this is available on the Figma community beta page. So if I type in hand, it's this one right here. So you can hit duplicate and we can paste that in. Obviously it is quite large. Let's scale this down, get this into place. For the fill, let's just get rid of the fill entirely. Let's group those up. Now, this is a little bit too much contrast. It makes reading the type a little bit difficult. So of course we can just take our stroke and we can come down, or you could change the opacity. By the way, let's go ahead and right click and send it back. Whoop, we don't see it anymore. I don't think it was a part of the actual, the group. So we want this to be in desktop 6. There we go. And we'll put it at the bottom. So we'll just drag it here. Whoop. Sometimes when you do that, it takes it out of the frame. So let's go ahead and just do send to back. There we go. So now we can go ahead and take this down quite a bit. All right, so that's very cool right there. And it's just a great way where you can add texture very easily. Now, one thing I don't like is this area where it's kind of the phones overlapping. That's why they had a fill on it. So we could bring that back and maybe not do that step and just change that fill color to this background color that it's sitting on. But either way, there we go. So that's different use cases for illustrations in your UI designs. I advocate definitely checking out all the great resources that you have available to you here in Figma.com, but also some other really high quality illustrations that you can find if you're willing to pay for them. And it's worth doing so. Just work it into the cost of your clients. If you're a freelancer, is UI8.net. They have a lot of illustrations and other resources, and they're all very high quality. They're definitely curated, so you can get some great 3D assets even if you wish, and all that good stuff. So another resource is appydev.co/illustrations. So this is just a collection of 21 different bundles and illustrations. Many of them are free. I've used this one quite a bit here in the middle. And so, yeah, I look forward to having a challenge here that's going to require you to use an illustration. You've already done one, though, with the landing page. So you should have, a pretty good understanding about illustrations under your belt, especially to this point.